Hey everybody, we are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. For those who might be new and don't know who I am, I'm a #1 best-selling author in military science fiction with my Justified saga, The Nano Templar, which is a Star Wars-y type of universe, and also my #1 best-selling steampunk series, The Adventures of Baron von Monocle. So I have a unique insight as to the writing of these different shows when we start watching them and start paying attention to them. I wasn't going to review The Mandalorian because I wasn't sure if I was going to get Disney Plus, but I've also got little kids and they are very excited for all the content on that. So might as well watch it at this point and see how it is. So we watched it last night. It is family friendly enough. There's a bit of violence, but they save most of the violence for weird aliens and suits and droids and things like that. So it's just some laser stuff that you'll see generally in Star Wars or anything like that these days. If you're having your kids watch the Avengers movies, this is pretty tame in comparison. It opens up like it's a Western, and it actually evoked the emotional appeal of Firefly by doing so. The Mandalorian shows up, he's in a bar, there's problems going on, and they both show that the character is kind of a stoic guy by the way he's in there, and they also show how much of a badass he is by the fact that he just blows up everything in sight by the before the credits there, sort of as a scene. It's a standard ploy and trope of the way that things open up in these type of shows or movies. For example, you've got somebody on an adventure already, and you're at the end of it, and so you see the action, and then he kind of dials back and gets into things, and you learn about the character a little bit before they go on their real adventure. I always think about this in terms of Mission Impossible. The Mission Impossible movies always opened like this. You get Tom Cruise in the middle of some action, and then he gets a new assignment and goes. And this is exactly how the first episode opens. And it works. Frankly, this is a trope that works very well, and that's exactly why they put this into this show right here. It was really well done. Jon Favreau wrote it, and he's a very competent person when it comes to action sci-fi stuff, which is what we got here. The music's kind of interesting, and I noticed from the get-go, of course, when you think Star Wars, you've got that John Williams brilliance, and they try to get the horns going and the strings going and all this, but they also add in textures like distorted guitar and things like that make it feel a little weird. And at points, I didn't feel quite like it was Star Wars, but it felt like generic sci-fi action universe that happens to have a Mandalorian armor in it. And this is probably my main complaint about the episode. As thinking about it, they really don't get into the overall global what's going on in the universe there. They have a brief scene where they explain that Empire credits are probably not good anymore. Did I mention I'm going to have spoilers in this review? There's going to be spoilers of the first episode in this review, so just be aware of that. And the the Empire's credits are no good, and that's about the only thing they explain in the universe. So it gives you a really distorted sense of time. I mean, I had to go look up on Google when this was set, which is apparently 5 years after Empire or Return of the Jedi, and then figure it out from there. I wish they really gave a little more depth to that. It would have been nice if they had like a title crawl at the beginning. That would have given it a Star Wars feel, right? And they could have done that very easily without having to change much here. But overall, the episode was constructed all right. We learned he's a bounty hunter. We learned that the Mandalorians were pretty much eradicated. He's got some sort of tribe that's trying to reestablish itself in the galaxy, and he's helping them out through his bounty hunts and all that. We don't get a name of the main character, which is very odd, but he does talk. He's a stoic kind of guy. He's your John Wayne kind of hero as he goes through things, and he goes on an assignment to get a bounty of some like very dangerous person, and ends up on this Tatooine-like world where we get some creatures, we get some interesting characters. I thought the character who was training him through this as he made his way out to the final scene was very cool. He gave you a little Obi-Wan vibe on that, and then it gets to the old classic Western shootout. And so they did that. It was very straightforward, not a lot of surprises. They they warned you that, people had gone on this trail before and died. And we go and he solves the bounty. He kills everybody. Yay. And the package that he's supposed to get, or the weird thing that is being hidden, is the twist at the end. And this is about it. It doesn't seem to be a bad dude at all, which you expect, and we don't really learn too much about his contract other than there's deep pockets funding it. And he's sent to grab and retrieve a baby Yoda, and it was actually to kill it. So, and this is actually pretty interesting. So he teams up with like an IG-88 type of droid, and eventually betrays his fellow bounty hunter droid, and shoots it up in order to save this little Yoda, and it ends right there. So we have a compelling character set up through the Mandalorian, even though we don't know his name. We've got his background. They did do a flashback where we saw him, like, his planet getting, destroyed and people crying and all that as he was a little kid, to give that little, like, personal touch feel. It's cheesy and a little overdone, but they did put it in there, and it does help you relate to the character who, is sitting there in armor the whole time and just shooting things up. So you do need a little bit of relation there. It was pretty well done on that front. And the action scenes were fun. It's TV level. It's not cinema level, but it is what it is. I'm sure the budget is what it is too. So I'm fine with that. And I enjoyed his sense of honor at the end there, that he knew that there was something special about this little baby Yoda character, and he was going to protect this thing rather than destroy it, because it didn't sit right with him to just kill this like thing that basically looked like a child. And so that's a good thing. We have a hero, even though he's an anti-hero in some extent. He's more heroic than we get from a lot of stuff these days. This was less dark than a lot of stuff these days as well. And it looks like we have a guy who's in the galaxy. He's uncovering a mystery of what this is, I'm sure. And we're uncovering the mystery of his people, what happened to them, and what they're going to do. And so it's a good setup overall. I enjoyed it. It's like I like it. I don't love it. I don't see myself watching this over and over again. We'll see how the rest of the series goes, of course. But it was a good setup, good first episode. I'm very interested in the baby Yoda. This is maybe the only thing that could have got me back into Star Wars is the baby Yoda. I like that it's a straightforward Western-style hero plot. I hope they continue in the Western style. I really enjoy that. It brings me back to Firefly, which was probably the best science fiction series in recent history. And that's it. Yeah, so maybe like a 7 or 8 out of 10. Enjoyable, worth watching. I'm going to watch the next episode. As far as my complaints about it, I mentioned that we really didn't get a sense of the setting. It felt like generic sci-fi action show a lot of the time. We didn't really sense what was going on with the galactic conflict or the New Republic or whatever. We should get a little something. We should hear rumors or have a little bit in the background there. Especially as a bounty hunter trying to travel across the galaxy, you'd figure he'd need to know the geopolitical situations of wherever he's going, and we just don't hear much about it whatsoever. So the world building's a little flat, but that's standard par for the course of Disney ever since The Force Awakens came on. If you look at the Resistance First Order thing, we really don't know what the geopolitical conflict there is, and we've had 2 movies of it. So Disney's really doing this, and the reason I believe they're doing this is to try to genericize it so that they can kind of fudge timelines and things like that and not get nerd outrage by that sort of thing. I get it. Because when you get too detailed on that stuff, you're going to get a lot of those guys, the fedoras on the internet going, well, actually, in the book, blah, 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 it actually says this, and this happened here, and it contradicts itself, and complaining about it. So they try to genericize as much as possible to probably deflect from that, is what I'm going to guess. But it does hurt the overall feel, because what's beautiful about the original Star Wars and what's going on before all this Force Awakens stuff is there is really a nice mythos and world around it where you really do get the feel of the geopolitical situation. So I'm hoping they develop that a little bit more. We'll see. They need to develop the character more first, because the character really, he's a mystery in this first episode, and it makes it hard to connect with him until certain points later in the episode. But there is a lot of room for growth here. It's a good start. It was worth watching. I like the timeline at about a little under 40 minutes because it's a little less than a 1-hour TV show episode. It felt very natural. It felt very fast paced, which was good. And I look forward to the series, and I think we might have something decent on our hands. All right, guys. I hope that was useful for you. I try to hit the writing perspective as best I can, and that's what I try to do on this channel all the time. If you like it, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, do your thing. Leave me a comment and tell me what you thought of The Mandalorian, and I will see you guys in the next video.